While I have talked about nothing but positives about my educational journey and my personal journey, I think it's time to talk about a couple incidents that made me take 3 steps back while I was working with families. Again, I'd already mentioned the difference between my student teaching in Crawfordsville and my Chicago urban education experience. And that was the first time it was not only an aha moment, but it also made me really step back. Because after I was in that Chicago classroom and I met some of my students and their family members that came and spoke to me during that week, I made the realization that I'm not always going to have a supportive person at home, or I'm not going to always have someone that really wants their child to be educated first above all other things. So realizing that there are different families in this world and that not everyone was as supportive as mine or the students in Crawfordsville, that was a huge moment that made me really take a step back and go, now, if that's the case, I'm going to have to find alternate activities and things that I can do for these kids and become a support system for them here in the classroom, because they may not be getting it at home. So that was a huge step back. My second big eye-opening moment that really made me take another step back was when I got my first job after graduation. My first full-time job was at Ben Davis High School, but before that, I became the first call sub at my alma mater, Perry Meridian. When I had gone back in just 4 years, the entire school demographic had changed. When I graduated in 2005, I'd say it was about 75 to 80% Caucasian, 15% African American, and the rest were Latino, Asians, and others. But when I went back and started teaching and doing the sub, I noticed that it had extremely dropped. It was about 60% white, about 15% black, and about 15% Chin. Indianapolis has become one of the top 4 places in the United States of America. I believe it's actually number 2 right now, where the Chin people have migrated to from Burma to avoid being executed and persecuted for their religious beliefs. They're Catholic versus the very, very radical Buddhists. And they have all settled in on the south side, and the entire school demographic changed. And with that, the families. When I ended up getting an extended sub position for a teacher that had surgery, I had a great number of Chin students in my class, and they were extremely involved in their kids' education. They came in, they asked what they could do additionally. They brought in interpreters so that they could express how thankful they were I was for my teaching, what they could do for their kids at home. They went the extra mile, more so than the students of my white kids. And again, I just kind of had to step back and go, wow. Because after my Chicago experience, I had expected minority students to not have as invested of students, and I was completely and totally wrong. Because these Chin parents went above and beyond for their kids, and that was amazing. So that made me reevaluate my philosophy. And my third and final time where I really took a step back was when I did some personal development on my own, and I read the article I mentioned earlier. It's difficult because of the language, and Reclaiming Youth at Risk. In Reclaiming Youth at Risk, the author, Bernito Broken Leg and Brockren, basically said that biologically, throughout history, biological parents have often been unreliable. They were too immature, irresponsible, and many would die when children were still young, but the tribe would still nourish the new generation. And then they go on to say this, and this is the quote that really stuck with me. It is of the highest imperative that the modern family be strengthened and stabilized. But in any culture, there will always be a large number of children born to adults whose parenting skills and resources are not sufficient to meet their needs. Contemporary communities cannot avoid their tribal responsibilities for the youth at risk. Much like Hillary Clinton said, it takes a village to raise a child. After reading the content of these 2 articles, I realized that I had to become a support system for some of my kids, and I'm going to have to support them because they're not getting that support at home again. And it just really drove that point home. It made me realize that I have to be a more active figure, not only trying to reach parents, but sometimes being a parental figure for some kids in school, so they keep coming back and they understand that the importance of their education and the ability to better their situation in life. Those are the 3 big steps that made me step back. And in the final video, I'd just like to give you a short summation of everything we've talked about, and just embark to you what my personal philosophy is.